All right, welcome back everyone to this exciting tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll be talking about keyframes. What are keyframes, how to use keyframes, and why they are the backbone of animating anything in After Effects. Now, first of all, let's double click to import, let's say, the Keynomentor logo here that we have as composition retain layer sizes. It's going to create a nice composition if I double click on it, where my logo here is in vector and actually in the center of the composition with its own anchor point in the center of its own layer size. All right. So let's talk about how to do basic keyframing. When you open up your layer properties under transform, you will get as an example the position property. Now, this is the most basic of options to animate and move. So let's go through it. You have a stopwatch right next to the position layer. If you engage this stopwatch, meaning you left click, what you will see is you will get a diamond shape. Let's move the current time indicator here. You will get a diamond shape object here in the timeline that actually represents the values stored in what we call a keyframe, right? And what values is it storing? Well, it's storing the position X and Y of this specific layer pertaining to its position in the composition, right? So now when I click on the stopwatch, it's engaging the ability to put keyframes on the timeline, right? So if I move my current time indicator and say 1 second later, I would like this to move to the right, you can left click and drag directly in the composition to move it to the right. And what you will see is you will get another keyframe that is generated right in the timeline. Okay, so if you play this back, it will look like this. Right now I'm scrubbing, but if I click space on my keyboard, this is how the animation looks like. Okay, now this is basic movement of the position, and obviously anytime you've created a keyframe, you can delete it. So you can say delete on your keyboard and delete it, and now you're back at square one. You know, you're back at the position of your layer at the very beginning of this lesson. Now, what are the other positions you can, or actually properties you can animate? Say scale, for example. If you click on the stopwatch, you go 1 second later in the timeline and you animate the scale of the logo, right? And if I play this back, it looks like this. The logo is scaling. Okay. Now, one thing to notice is, and we've talked about this early in an earlier lesson, is you can see how it starts to pixelate and become a little bit blurry when your layer scales. It makes sense that when you're working with a picture, it will be blurry like this and there's nothing you can do. But when we're talking about the layers here that are in vector format, there is one little option here that's called constantly rasterize. Okay, and if I engage it, you will see that no matter what I do with my layer, if I scale it, it will stay nice and sharp in high res the whole time, right? And this is an option you should have engaged at all times when you're working with vector layers. It's a little nice, cool thing to know about and to use. All right, so let's delete these keyframes. Another thing we can do is play with the rotation. So if I start rotating, I'll put the keyframe here at the beginning and I rotate, let's say 180 degrees. You can also input on your keyboard. The logo will flip, all right? So this is what happens. And here there's an option to say, I want to do this 3 times as an example. So the logo will flip 3 times as fast, 180 degrees, and spin around itself. Okay, so this is one thing you can also do. And let's say also what you can do is bring back all of this to what it used to be in its original shape, the scale as well to 100%. Okay, and the last thing, let's say here we can do quickly is the opacity. So we'll be able to play with how opaque or transparent the layer is. So as you can see, it's here and then it can disappear. One cool thing also is that directly in the timeline, you can flip the keyframes. So you can switch them and then from nothing, the logo appears, right? So this is a simple way of using and creating keyframes in After Effects. In the next lesson, let's have a look at how we can actually refine these keyframes further. I'll see you in the next lesson. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.